Good afternoon and welcome everyone to another edition of the OhioX Tech Tour. Today we're in Portsmouth, Southern Ohio, and I'm your host, Chris Berry, president of OhioX. OhioX is a statewide technology and innovation partnership with a mission of uniting and promoting what the great technology and innovation work happening across Ohio by companies, by organizations like universities and hospital systems, and the people that make it happen. This series is a 10-week, 10-city, 10-event tech tour. We're going to cities all across Ohio. So Portsmouth today, Southern Ohio, is our 8th stop. Last week we were in Toledo. Next week we'll be in Ashland. So this has been a great series to showcase the terrific innovation work and just really the diversity of Ohio and the amount of technology and innovation that businesses and organizations are doing day in and day out. We've talked to diverse leaders from diverse backgrounds, from big co to software companies, universities, startups, and more. And it's been great to hear all these different perspectives that add to a very unique Ohio. The goal is we want to learn, share, and help spread the work happening in places like Portsmouth and Southern Ohio. And hopefully today there's people tuning in from Southern Ohio, but we also have people tuning in from across the state and people from Youngstown or Toledo or Cleveland or Columbus or Dayton or Cincinnati. We'll learn more about what's happening in Southern Ohio and why technology is really thriving in so many places across our great state. Because of COVID, this is all virtual. But in the future, we hope to have some type of in-person component, but we certainly appreciate you spending your lunch hour with us. To start, I have to thank our tour sponsor, HMB. HMB helps mid-market companies and governments innovate and grow using cloud platforms and automation. HMB believes you don't have to have a bottomless IT budget to reach your full potential. For more information on HMB, please visit their website, hmbnet.com. That's hmbnet.com. And as a nonprofit, the support of HMB for this series has been absolutely vital. And so we've had so many great stories shared and successes learned that really we can't thank them enough for the opportunity to share the work that is happening. And today, again, we're so thrilled to be in Portsmouth. At the moment, we're joined by two gentlemen, might have one more join us in a little bit. But I'll start with some introductions and then we can hop into our program and events, and hopefully over the next 54 minutes, we'll learn about what's happening in Portsmouth and Ironton and places throughout Southern and Southeastern Ohio. But first up, we have David Kilroy. David is the program director for the Cricker Innovation Hub at Shawnee State University. The Innovation Hub leverages investment from the state of Ohio and the Economic Development Administration to create a center for entrepreneurship in Southern Ohio. When renovations are complete, so I know the hub is something that's in downtown, I believe, they'll feature a digital maker space, business incubation space, and co-working space. David, thank you for joining us today, and maybe you could share a little bit more about you and what you work on in Portsmouth and at Shawnee State.
Absolutely. Thank you, Chris. So yes, the Innovation Hub is my project at Shawnee State University. I truly could talk for hours about it. So I'm glad that we'll get some time here to talk about it. As far as kind of my personal background, I'm a transplant to the area. I've been here for about 3.5 years working on this project and have really seen it grow from, really just an idea, concept, a proposal to the $4.4 million investment in downtown Portsmouth that it is today. So it's a really exciting opportunity for the university. It's a really exciting investment for Portsmouth, and you're really just going to see it become more and more important, I think, in the next couple of years. We plan to finish up the renovation by the end of next year and make a big to-do about that launch party. So we're excited for that.
Well, that's great. And thank you for sharing and being here today, David. One of the fun things about this tour is has been hearing different stories, but oftentimes so much of it starts with universities, and Ohio has a number of incredible institutions across the state, and they are really hubs of activity and innovation. And economic development. So we'll certainly explore more about what Shawnee State and what you are working on. But next up is Jason Vititoe. He's the director of PureCycle Technologies, based in Ironton, so just a little bit over across from Portsmouth. But he's a technology and engineering director responsible for leading design and implementation departments for a new startup recycling company. He has over 18 years of experience leading commercial and pilot plant operations, responsible for operations personnel performance and development, safety and quality programs, leading capital projects, project implementation, product development, and scale up and process troubleshooting. If that's not enough, he's also a graduate of The Ohio State University and I believe the University of Michigan, which is probably something that not too many people complain. But I guess we'll start with Jason. Who are you rooting for on Thanksgiving weekend and each fall?
Yeah, that's an easy one. I'm an Ohio boy, so I was born and raised in Southern Ohio. So Chillicothe is where I hail from. So I'm a Buckeye. The other school provided me with a decent master's degree, so I decided to do that while I was working. So after I got out of school from the Ohio State University, I moved to Michigan to work for Dow Chemical for several years, and then while I was there, that's when I got my degree from that other school. And that's usually how I tell people to. So and like you mentioned, I have 18 years experience in various types of research and commercial plant chemical engineering background. The last several years before joining PureCycle, worked with America Styrenics, so I had a chance to move back down to this area. So I was actually here on the site that PureCycle's on. And during that time was able to develop a post-consumer recycled polystyrene project, and we developed products out of that, and we had a patent on that as well. And they've since grown that business even more. So that's good, just to show the recyclability of plastics, which is obviously something that's the world is talking about a lot nowadays. When I saw the technology for PureCycle come across, it was a no-brainer. It's a great opportunity. Because now I could make a huge impact around the world as we grow this business in this company. So I decided to take a chance and literally jump across the fence. So as I tell people, although technically the fence wasn't there yet, that was one of the last things I did before I left. So, but I'm still on site here where Dow Chemical used to be. And so we're looking to bring back some of the jobs to this region by bringing this technology here. So excited to be a part of it.
That's fantastic. And thank you for sharing that, Jason. To start, a couple of quick things. I just put something in the chat bar, so that should pop up and people should be able to see that, both our panelists today and our attendees. So one of the fun things that we've been able to do over the past 7 other events like these we've had is oftentimes the chat will be another source of questions, ideas, comments as you're hearing about stories that are being shared and information. So please feel free to chat away, anyone, panelists, attendees. We can work it in the conversation, and that's been another fun component to make this a little more interactive. But to start, we kind of like to level set because it's so interesting hearing different perspectives across the state, because even though we may live in different regions and different cities, the one thing that we've all been dealing with and experiencing collectively that doesn't matter where you live has been COVID, which in the matter of days going back to March, it completely shifted how we work. And so many people have been working at home, and it's created new opportunities. It's also presented challenges to some companies. But to start, David, we can go with you first. Just curious of what these past few months have been for you, because I know you have an actual physical space being built, which has kind of shifted it, but just what it's been like, at Shawnee State and in some of your work to have been experiencing COVID over these past few months.
Yeah, well, obviously it's been interesting. And I would actually say that the Innovation Hub is really in a unique spot for COVID, where it really has not had that big of an impact, or really an adverse impact on what we're trying to do. And since we were preparing for this renovation, we knew that we were going to have to shift things virtual anyways. That, hey, we've got this space, we've been holding programming in the space, and when the renovation started, we wouldn't be able to do that. So it really just kind of sped up that timeline and forced us to go virtual. But at the same time, kind of it forced everyone else to go virtual. All of a sudden, people, when they see a virtual event, they think, oh, of course it's a virtual event. This is exactly what I'm looking for. So for us, it's really sped that up. It's helped to transition, Hub staff to working remotely. And, it's really from an operations point of view, from, what we are trying to do, it's not had that big of an impact on us. We are working with the Rural Innovation Initiative. And so this past summer, we've been really developing a strategy outline for what the hub is going to be. And it's helped us to take some time, step back a little bit and kind of refocus that time on developing a strategy. And as part of that, they released an article on the state of co-working during COVID. And we talked a little bit with them about what our experience was. And it really validated to kind of see a lot of spaces like ours doing the same thing. There was another space that they took the time during COVID to change locations. It disrupted all of their members. So they took the time to really rethink about, what is our future? And so they moved locations. So I think that a lot of co-working spaces are going through the same kind of thought process of this is disrupting everything, and how are we really pivoting to take advantage of the changes there. But I would say that all of our events this fall are going to be virtual. So it's really, when it comes down to it, again, like I said, really just sped up that timeline.
And David, obviously, I guess beyond for the Innovation Hub, but for the university more broadly, that's been such a hot topic of students being back on campus, and is it virtual, and are people trying to have in-person classes and gatherings, and for a lot of universities, living situations, and bringing students back. What's kind of the status, and what's it been like for the university? Have classes started? Are students in class physically, or is it pretty much all virtual at this point?
Yeah, I will say, of course, that the Innovation Hub is, very much a non-academic part of the university. So I'm not very involved in what happens on the academic side of the house, especially in decisions like that. And I've followed all of the developments from universities across the country in terms of what they're doing and how they're adapting, and how universities are making it possible for students to either learn virtually or come back to school. And frankly, from what I've seen, every time I read an article, I think about how glad I am to be working for Shawnee State University, and kind of the spot we're in, where I think we've got a unique set of advantages of working in a rural spot of our student body, where we're able to mitigate some of those risks, and kind of move forward with the semester and really deliver educational value to our students. I believe that classes started on Monday. I believe this week is the first week. We had our weekend of welcome and move-in days, and the university was really active in making sure that that was a success. And I guess I'll say that, like any university, no one knows exactly what's going to happen, but from what I've seen, the university is in a great position to deliver value to our students during a time when no one really knows what's going to happen.
Great, thank you, David. Jason, curious what it's been like for PureCycle Technologies, and have you all been in the office or out of the office, and just what these past few months, because you are a newer company as well?
Yeah, I mean, exactly right. We're a startup company. As you can see, I'm in my office today. So when the first, I guess, regulations kind of hit, we were in the process of a maintenance turnaround anyways. So we took the time to finish, that and assess how we would approach, the regulations as they're coming out. What we were able to do, because we sell our product will go into a lot of the markets that are essential businesses, and so we were able to be declared as essential business as a supplier, even with our pilot plant, because a lot of people are sampling our product in order to be able to develop their products going forward from when our commercial plant goes on. So that was helpful. Being a startup company, timing is essential, and so we're it could have went either way, but we were able to, because of the nature of our business, we were able to get that essential declaration. And so we're able to continue to keep functioning. Now, there's still a lot of other things going on in the background, even while we were working on that. And so it seemed to me like it actually got busier because of COVID, because everybody just started doing virtual meetings. And since nobody had time to travel and they didn't have that time wasted traveling, now they just wanted to spend that time doing meetings. So, and essentially it really, it didn't affect us in any way negative. Now, yes, as you walk around the office, when we get together in larger groups, you might see masks, and we have areas segregated for minimizing the amount of people. So you have those things, but beyond that, you see those everywhere. It really didn't affect us directly that much. It may have slowed some things down where you would have liked to have a face-to-face meeting or a facility tour, and some of those things were delayed. But as things start to relax, we're able to start to bring those back in, and so those things are they'll start picking up over the next weeks. So,
thank you, David. And one question we had in from the Q&A, and I think from Barry McGraw. So thank you, Barry, for sending that in. But could you just talk a little bit more about the PureCycle technology? And as I've checked it out on your all's LinkedIn page and the website, it sounds like a really fascinating company that you work for and you're building. It sounds that there can be a ton of applications, and it says one goal, a pure planet, which I think we're seeing so much interest in things that revolve around a healthy earth and kind of helping out the ecosystem. But would be really interested to hear more about what you all do at PureCycle.
Yeah, no, I can talk well about that. So the technology was developed. Just a quick history. Procter and Gamble actually, they developed the technology. They commissioned one of their really high-level scientists, very very intelligent man. I've worked with him a couple years now. So he had to go out and find the ability to be able to use recycled materials in their products. And of course, we all know Procter and Gamble. We know all the products from Tide to Gillette to everything. So he went out and searched for the right feedstocks that they could utilize to be able to incorporate recycled material, and he couldn't really find any that they could use. So rather than taking no for an answer, he actually developed technology to make it. And that's what eventually became PureCycle Technologies. So through an understanding of his background, as a doctorate in chemical engineering and polymer science, he was able to develop this technology. And what we're able to do is take polypropylene that's colored and has odors. We've all been to those places, smelled it. We know recycled material has that odor about it. So we're able to take out the colors, the odors, and the contaminants and make a near virgin product out of it that can be reused again in similar applications. And it's quite comparable to a virgin product with similar characteristics. And so the technology, and that's kind of what I've hinted at earlier in my introduction, the beauty of the technology is that we can take, pretty much any feedstock and we can clean it up and make a product that can be reused again in an actual application, as opposed to park benches and undercarriage parts on cars. Nothing against those. Those are great. We need to use plastic everywhere and reuse it whenever we can. So that's, where we can't, that's where technologies such as PureCycle comes into play, so that we can actually clean it up and make it reusable again. So that's basically the high level view of our process. Again, we're able to clean that out through a series of proprietary and some, there's patents out there as well that just explains we're able to extract out a lot of odors and filter out a lot of the colors and contaminants so that we can make this near virgin product.
And Jason, thank you for sharing that. That was really interesting and enjoyed that background. How big is the team right now?
We have about 25 people total on board, as far as all the staff that we have. Our parent company, Inventure, they started the business. Their goal is to bring breakthrough technologies such as PureCycle to market quickly. And so, there's some staff there, but we have about 25 folks. And here on site in Ohio, we probably have about 15 or so now. Well, we've actually added a few here lately, so we're probably close to 20. As we grow over the next year, we're getting ready to close on our financial bond in September. And so then we'll start the commercial plant construction. And eventually we'll be able to bring in 60 jobs or so to this region that are good paying operations jobs, so that we can, start bringing back some of the industry to this area, where, it used to be called the steel belt, and now people start to call it the rust belt. Well, maybe we can start calling it the plastic belt or something like that. So.
Well, that's great. And that's, that's an incredible success story for really anywhere, but certainly a region that, to your point of having not just jobs, but kind of next generation technology, leading technology. So that's fantastic to hear. Want to introduce now Paul Yost, who's joining us. Paul is the Chief Technical Officer and Chief of Research and Development at Yost Labs. Yost Labs works with government agencies, developers, and researchers to create motion capture solutions for product development. And Paul's responsible for managing all research endeavors, engineering projects, and project development within the technology division. And I believe, Paul, you're also on the board of advisors for the Innovation Hub at Shawnee State. So thanks so much for being here. If you maybe want to just tell a little bit about you and the work that you're doing.
Yeah, and I apologize for being late. We had a little bit of technical difficulties on this end. Actually, two of them that kind of cascaded. Yes.
You froze up just a little bit, Paul, but I think we can hear you now.
Okay, so I guess to get started in a little bit of background is that I have been kind of in the entrepreneurship area really since 1999, and doing high-tech business in the Southern Ohio, kind of Portsmouth, Ohio area since then. And it started with software systems for healthcare, kind of almost like expert systems, AI systems for compliance in the healthcare industry. And then while that products were being developed in that thing, we also kept a strong presence in kind of research and development. And that was kind of the driving force of the company that I am in now, Yost Labs. That grew out of a previous company as sort of the research division of that. And now Yost Labs, we create a lot of products. Most of them are in the inertial sensing space. So we have a line of inertial sensing products for really every major market sector we have products in. So we have off-the-shelf products, but we also do a lot of work with companies to customize or do research and development and leverage our expertise and our suite of intellectual property for use in somebody else's market space as custom products. So we have things in the aerospace market sector, in the military and defense market sectors, industrial, medical, and you mentioned kind of that motion capture market space. So we have stuff in what I would call more of the electronic entertainment, both on the content creation side and real-time motion capture. So we have a virtual reality suit product. And we also have now focused on kind of, and this is an important, timely kind of product space to be in, but physical therapy and rehab. So applying that same kind of aerospace grade motion sensing, but for telemedicine, telerehabilitation market spaces. And so we're still very active in the research and development side of that space. And that's essentially what we do. And I mean, I've got some little products I'm working on here sitting around, but we do a lot of stuff in those spaces.
That's great. Well, thank you for sharing that, Paul. And I guess transitioning back into a bit of our conversation, which there's some definite overlap between Paul, you being on the advisory board, and then David, what you're doing. But one of the more interesting things that I've enjoyed learning about over these past few months is when we started talking with Shawnee State and some of the people there, and just is seeing about the Shawnee Game Conference for the game design program, which is ranked 9th in the country. And you know, gaming and esports and those things are such huge market opportunities that have come about in the past few years, and especially with COVID, as we're now in the situation where unless you're, the NBA playing in a bubble, or you're really doing social distancing, but we had a complete disruption of in-person sports. But we've seen things like e-gaming really take off. And these days, I think a lot of kids are, just as much maybe turning pro in the NFL, they're hoping to maybe even turn pro on esports. But David, could you share a little bit about what this is, and really how it came about? Because it's such a fascinating thing that isn't also just new. I believe it started in 2001, and then it shifted to more of the event that it looks like today in 2003. And part of this conference that you all have, which I believe is in October maybe of this year, you've had some pretty big keynote speakers and keynote kind of leaders that have come in and shared what they're working on from really big companies like Microsoft and others. But would love to learn more about this conference, and if you could just share how it came to be.
Yeah, I can absolutely share my perspective on it and the Innovation Hub's involvement and perspective on it. I know that Paul has really been instrumental in making it happen as well, so I'll probably give him a question or two to talk about. So yeah, it really is a great opportunity for us, and I'll say that from my perspective, both plastics and gaming are really kind of the two of the strengths that not only the university has with the ranked plastics engineering technologies program and the 9th in the country gaming program. They really represent big opportunities for us to build that out, and the gaming conference is really it's a growth of that. I went last year and we had a student gaming pitch competition where students that have been creating these games, there was a competition and they presented their games to a panel of judges for the finals, and I had the opportunity to introduce each team for their game and their background and what they did. And these are students that are really passionate about gaming, but they're also really passionate about creating something and putting it out into the world. When I talk about the Innovation Hub with students, there's usually two groups of students that are interested in what I have to say. And from an academic point of view, and of course, that's the business majors, but then the gaming majors. And if you walk into a class of gaming students and ask, how many of you want to launch your own game? How many of you want to launch a game development studio? 90% of the hands go up. And they really have a framework for thinking about, I want to create something, I want to be an entrepreneur, and this is how I'm going to do it. So it's exciting for us to be involved with the Shawnee Gaming Conference, to have that opportunity to bring, like you said, big names to the table, to the region, to the city and the university, and see what's going on. So it's a huge platform for us. We recently started a entrepreneurship and gaming speaker series. We started it last year at the Shawnee Gaming Conference, and it was a great event for us. And we're going to continue it again this year. I know that the gaming conference has had to adapt to COVID, of course, and I believe that they're going to find a way to make it happen, perhaps not in October, but we are still going to hold a virtual event in October, or I believe it's in November, to, again, highlight the work that's happening there. And I do want to ask Paul, from your perspective, if you could offer any insight to how it's grown over the past, several years.
Yeah, and that's actually something that the gaming program at Shawnee is something that's very near and dear to my heart. In addition to being here at Yost Labs doing invention and building things and creating stuff, I'm also an associate professor and the originator of at least the game programming engineering technology side of things. And so that was one of my babies that is now doing very well, and I'm happy to see that. And I stepped away from teaching for a while and then went back to teaching about 5 years ago, so I'm still actively involved in that. And that the gaming conference itself has been really fantastic for a couple of reasons. One is it brings in speakers. It brings in that it will both speak on kind of aspects of entrepreneurship related to gaming, but also technical sessions where people learn things or are exposed to things. And it also provides kind of a networking event for our students, and it also provides a lot of exposure to our degree and the talent of our students, and to people in industry and high school students or prospective students of ours that are interested in that. So it's a really all-around fantastic event. It's the kind of event, we have the kind of technical sessions and the kind of interactive sessions that you would expect to see at the large gaming conferences like ECGC or GDC. It's a much smaller scale, obviously, but still the quality of the presentations is great. So if anyone is in the region and interested, you should definitely take a look at that. It's really a well put together event, and you're guaranteed to learn something and guaranteed to meet people that are like-minded if that's your interest area.
That's great. Thank you, both David and Paul. And I had put in the chat for anyone who hasn't seen yet, but the link for the conference so people can follow along there. And then I also threw in an article from VentureBeat of a report that came out that said that the games market is expected to hit $180 billion in revenue by 2021. And I'm sure there's all sorts of reports, but that's a massive number. So kudos to Paul and David and others at the university and in the community that, again, this isn't a new thing. It's been around for a number of years. And so that's really impressive. But shifting to another topic that we have is workforce development, and just ensuring that there are the skilled workers that can go into places and work for tech companies or businesses. And we have two people from the private sector, and then David from a university, which is part of that massively important pipeline that can place talent. But curious as to experiences of just the benefits of being close to a state university in a rural part of the state. Maybe Jason, if you want to start off with, you've gone to Ohio State, Michigan, you've worked for big, large companies, but now you're at a startup. But just the importance of having skilled workers that can do that, and what that's like being in Southern Ohio, and what are some of those maybe partnerships or collaborations between universities or schools that you're seeing that can help make sure that companies like PureCycle Technologies have the talent to compete with anyone across the globe.
Yeah, you keep mentioning that school up north, and you're going to have to stop doing that. So this is an Ohio Tech Tour. Remember that, Chris. I guess it is critical, as everyone knows, to have the right skill set of workers for any company, especially for a startup company. We've been very fortunate to have some good resources to be able to pull into. This area, and not just in Ohio, but this whole Ohio Valley area has a lot of good workforce for chemical industry, for various manufacturing industries. So it was just finding the right fit for our startup, and in so doing, we found some others that we would certainly want for our commercial plant. But that's not to say there are also needs to develop, and I can specifically call out Shawnee State, because they've worked with us and they've supplied us with some good recruits that we actually have in our pilot facility right now. So they're doing a good job with their plastics engineering degree, and so that's certainly going to be vital for Ohio to have things like that, as well as just another local university across the river here. It has a kind of a petroleum type of technologist degree that we also can pull from. So the local universities, both in Portsmouth and in Ashland, are able to provide candidates that are trained already in the things that we'll need them to be trained in. Then of course you have your normal learning process on the job, but they're coming in prepared at least, and they can speak the lingo, they can understand the technology. So we've actually discussed with partnering with Shawnee State even more to tweak the programs to help better understand, so that we can get candidates direct with what we're doing, and they can understand what we're doing. We can kind of make a program that fits. And so that partnership with local universities is also vital. So in any region of Ohio or the U.S., I think that companies should start looking into that and making sure that they're talking to the universities that are close by, so that way you can develop the workforce you need. Because Our good worker is just irreplaceable, and you want them to have that confidence that you have in them, so that they're just doing their job that much better, and that you're a team. It's not just a company and a worker, that you're a team working together. And so that's, and if you bring in the university as part of that teamwork, that's just that much better.
And Paul, I'd be interested your take and perspective on some of this, because as you mentioned, not only are you working in the private sector business and working on technology and innovation, but you've also played a role over time. Sounds like in multiple ways with Shawnee State. So what that's been like, and for you as a private sector leader, the importance of that, and making sure that Shawnee State is in a position to produce those types of tech talent that they can grow and build and be part of the business community in Southern Ohio.
Yeah, it is actually kind of interesting being on both sides of that I'm both on the side of kind of helping to educate and produce that talent, but also on the side of consuming that talent. And really all the way back from the first business back in '99, the first high-tech business that I started and was involved with, it has been a great benefit to have connections with, and the university close by. That my headquarters here were a couple blocks from the university. The university with a number of the degrees, like the gaming degree, it draws really good talent in, and I know the curriculum, and I know that it's really teaching things so that the students get like the kind of foundations of computer science, the theoretical part of it, but also real world useful knowledge of tools. And so we do a lot of work with interns at the university, and a lot of my full-time employees have come through really not just the gaming or computer engineering tech programs, but we have people that have come through with accounting degrees from Shawnee that are bookkeepers for us, and our director of operations has a degree from Shawnee. And so that's the kind of thing that having that close connection to that really helps us on the private side. And it also is good because I can use kind of the stuff we're working on at work to kind of tweak the program. It also gives the students kind of real world experience if they do kind of entrepreneurship things. And there's one other benefit too that I think that is important, and that is having a high-tech business there. There are some local homegrown students that are very talented that would like to stay in Southern Ohio and live here, and they like the way of life, and they like the kind of a little bit quieter nature of it. They have family here, they have friends here, and a lot of them will end up leaving the area, but having a high-tech business and several high-tech businesses in the area gives them an option to stay here, but still do high-tech things that you would have at a job in Silicon Valley or Austin, Texas, or any of the other large technology areas. So it's kind of a win-win, and I would really love to see us grow more of that. I think that's kind of what the innovation, the Kiroy Innovation Center can kind of help with, is kind of help those students that want to start their own thing, and help mentor them and give them the opportunity to grow our own little Silicon Ohio River Valley rather than having to go out of the area.
Thank you, Paul. And David, maybe you can add to that, but then also I think that's an interesting part of something that I came across of Portsmouth and Shawnee State are part of this Rural Innovation Initiative cohort. So it's one of 10 communities across the U.S. that develop an innovation strategy with technical assistance from the Center on Rural Innovation. And so maybe you could talk about that, but also what, I guess more broadly, what is rural innovation, and what are some of those things that you all have to, as part of those strategies that maybe cities like Columbus or Cleveland or more urban areas don't. And so what, because I think that's interesting for other parts of the state that, and Paul, as you mentioned, there are differences. And even though we're, an hour and a half from Columbus or where I'm sitting from you all, there are big differences and challenges, but then opportunities from that. So David, curious as to what maybe that means, and if you could share with us.
Yeah, that is a great question, and there's a lot that could go into it, so I'm going to try and do my best to keep it organized. I do want to say that kind of building off what Paul said, we have students that come out of the game design program and, recognize that the skills they're learning, the foundation they have, it is possible to do more than I guess, than only game design. We have students that have gone on to work for Boeing, for example, because they have a skill set that, they can apply to that work. So we really want to take, this group of really talented students interested in entrepreneurship and show them, hey, with this skill set, you can do, so much. You can build all different types of kinds of products, working with other students at the university, perhaps other alumni that have complementary skill sets. So, there's a lot that I could talk about there. But I do want to talk about the Rural Innovation Initiative for a second, because, for us, it's helped a lot to say, we want to be a real, not just a highlight of the community, but take students, take alumni that have this skill set and have the ability and goal to become entrepreneurs and take them to the next level. Build high quality accelerator programs. Have the really robust programming that enables that. And the Rural Innovation Initiative helps us to do that. We'll be releasing actually a strategy document to highlight the results of that work later this year in October, that kind of outlines, here are the steps that we're going to take over the next 3 to 5 years to make that a reality. And it's been a real grueling process to do that work. So I'm really glad that we're going to be able to release that document. The other thing that I wanted to mention about the Rural Innovation Initiative is one of the things that they really emphasize is remote work. And they do that not just because of COVID, but certainly with COVID, it's become such an important factor in how the economy is changing nationwide, where some of these technology jobs that previously would have been located in one office building, you can now do from anywhere in the country. And kind of like Paul said, where there are students that graduate from the university and want to stay here in Southern Ohio, getting a remote work job for a large company is all of a sudden much more realistic than it was before COVID. We know that individuals that work in the information sector in Santa County make a lot more money than people that don't. We also know that 3% of our population works remote. They work from home. We can build that. We can grow that number. We have a lot of people with the talent to compete for these jobs that have not been given that opportunity because they didn't want to relocate to, say, San Francisco or out of the state. So that does really represent a big opportunity for our area, and especially with, a co-working space like the Hub, where we've got access to ORNet, the Ohio Academic Research Network, super high speed, 100 gigabit per second, fiber internet, which really makes a lot of this possible. Internet's really everyone talks about the digital divide. That's going to be it. Access to reliable internet is going to be the difference maker in whether or not that happens. So there's a lot that goes into that. There's a lot, we talked about workforce. There's a lot that we can do to help make sure that people are prepared for jobs like that, prepared for the jobs of the future. And, the Innovation Hub, I think, can lead the way there. Hopefully that kind of answers your question. I know I maybe took it in a couple different directions, but yes, I'm very excited about the Rural Innovation Initiative.
That's great. Thank you, David. And as we have about 13 minutes, because we always try to wrap up right at about 12:59, so people can hop on those 1 p.m. Conference call or other Zooms that they might have. But we kind of like to end with a couple round robins that are a bit fun in nature, and then also kind of future casting, as we call it. Just talking about, what we've heard today, but then what we might have to look forward to in the coming, months and years. And David, we can start with you on this one, but the first of these round robins, we'll do two, but the first is if people are going to Portsmouth, they're stopping by Shawnee State, where are you taking them? And that could be for a lunch, could be the Innovation Hub when it's up and done, but that might be the easy answer. But what are some of those things that are very unique to Portsmouth, very unique to Southern Ohio, that you'd recommend any of these Ohioans, or to Jason's point earlier, anyone from that state up north, as maybe they come down to visit us, where should we go? David, you're on mute.
Muted. I did want to say that I'm also an Ohio State graduate as well. So I wanted to throw that out there. I wasn't going to say it, but so yeah, I asked this question on Facebook. I wanted to kind of crowdsource the answer, and I will say that we got a lot of responses. People are really passionate about, their local restaurant, their highlight of the community. And I can see that Jeremiah down in the chat there recommends the Saddle River, and they've got great steak. People come from all over to go to the Saddle River. I also wanted to mention kind of the historic Bonyfiddle area, downtown Portsmouth. We've got the state's oldest brewery in Portsmouth, Ohio, in the historic Bonyfiddle district. Patties and Pints is typically where I'll go for maybe lunch one day. And we also have the Southern Ohio Museum and Cultural Center, and that's a great asset to the community as well. There's all kinds of different startup restaurants that I could talk about. And I think that if people come down and explore downtown Portsmouth, visit our visitor center, I think that they'll find a lot of hidden gems.
Sounds great, David. Jason?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I could second the Scioto River. That's certainly a good one for Portsmouth. As far as where I live, I live over on the other side of the river in Kentucky. And there's a few good places over there too. So if they want to drive a little bit farther, Ironton has a couple good places. And then even farther down in Ashland, a really good Mexican restaurant down in Ashland that I prefer. It's Tres Hermanos. There's a few of them in the area, but that they just opened up a new one there in downtown, near downtown. So that's a good place. And a couple other new places that opened up in that region too that I haven't had a chance to try yet, but I've heard are pretty good. So, people think of big cities when they, there's a lot of good places in Columbus. My wife and I just went up there for our anniversary. Went to plenty of good places to eat, but this region's got some good food too. So certainly you can find something that you like.
Awesome. Thank you, Jason. Paul?
Yeah, one of the things that I would add to those, I certainly echo those same sentiments, but one of the things that I would add is if I was bringing somebody outside the area down to Portsmouth, one of the things that strikes me about the area is the natural kind of beauty and the fact that kind of Bonyfiddle Historic District is right down there on the river with the mountains, the start of the Appalachian Mountains in Kentucky, right on the other side of the river, visible, it's nestled in the Ohio River Valley. That and to some extent, the Shawnee State Forest, a lot of beautiful areas out through there, very natural. So we have a lot of natural kind of beauty in the area in addition to all the other exciting things. And one thing just quickly is that I think from an entrepreneurial perspective, there's a real advantage to being in a smaller town like Portsmouth. So for example, if we were to pick up our operations and move them to Silicon Valley in the San Francisco area, the cost of living would be much higher. The overhead for running a business would be much higher. And so there's kind of while we're off the beaten path and we're kind of not in one of those traditional high-tech areas, the internet has kind of shrunk the world a lot, but it really makes it much easier for us to spend our resources and our money on things like talent and innovation rather than overhead and things that aren't driving the technology forward. So there's a lot of advantages to a place like Portsmouth and a lot of other places in Southern Ohio.
Thanks, Paul. And I'll add, I've a number of times when I've had the opportunity to visit Portsmouth in Southern or even Southeastern Ohio, and it's coming up is the fall. And so you talk about the beauty, especially with the river and some of the mountains with the leaves changing. So it's a very beautiful drive down there, especially in these, September, October, early November as the leaves are changing. So that's kind of one of my favorite times to visit Portsmouth in Southern Ohio. But our last question, as we have about 7 or 8 minutes left, and we'll go Paul, then Jason, then end with you, David. But what's something that either we didn't talk about today that you want to share, and or what's some type of prediction for what's happening in Portsmouth or Southern Ohio and just the opportunity? And we talked today just about a few of them, so it could be a little bit more on e-gaming or virtual, and then also Jason, you mentioned the plastic belt and the idea for Southern Ohio and just the opportunities there. So Paul, kind of an opportunity for you to share anything or offer a prediction of why people should keep Portsmouth and Southern Ohio on their radar.
Okay, well, I guess from my perspective, that being here, really, I started teaching at Shawnee back in like 1995 or something like that. And one of the things that I've noticed is a big change in the almost like especially that downtown historic area. When I bought my building in '99 down here, there were just dozens and dozens of them that were empty and abandoned. And I looked at a lot of those when I was looking for a building before I found the one that I'm in now that my business is in. And there's been kind of the startings of revitalization going on here. And that was happening very quickly before COVID hit. And after COVID hit, things have slowed down a little bit down here, but it's still going on, and that excitement is still there. So one of the predictions that I would have is that Portsmouth, once hopefully soon the pandemic kind of washes away, my hope is that will continue, and I think that it will. And one of the things I think is an important driver of that is the university and the talent that we're attracting and the great programs we have down there. Not just the gaming program, but a lot of the degrees down there, and the quality of education you can get in a small face-to-face setting where you know your instructors and they know you. I think that's an important driver in that. And I would just like to see all of 2nd Street in the historic area have high-tech businesses, or some kind of entertainment for the people that work in the high-tech businesses, or dining for the people that work down here. I'd love to see that revitalization kind of explode here coming off of this pandemic.
That's great. Thank you, Paul. Jason?
Yeah, I guess a quick agreement with Paul. I think a prediction. I think we've worked a lot with Shawnee State, like I've said, in the last couple of years that we've been here. I've seen a lot of changes in their program. They're adapting their program, so they're not just sitting still, hoping things come to them. They're actually looking at the future and trying to change their programs to adapt to meet those needs. And like again, they've reached out to us. We've reached out to them. So I foresee them potentially having a really good opportunity to draw in a lot of students that can then be trained for the workforce of tomorrow, not just in the region here, which is going to be vital, because I see a lot of potential for growth in this region. But also, especially with virtualness of the world nowadays, being part of those big companies and just staying here in Southern Ohio. Because, the one thing that, as I moved back to the region, that you kind of forgot when you move away for a little bit, is the people who are here. I mean, this is their home. This is where they want to be. They go away maybe if they have to, but they prefer to stay here. And so bringing the jobs into this region, and not just Southern Ohio, it's like that everywhere in Ohio, and it's like that in other places. But bringing jobs to this region the workforce is there, the talent is there. So we just need to find ways to start bringing those jobs to this region, because it'll be very good. And like I said, Shawnee State, they're adapting. Other universities in the area are adapting to meet those needs. The last thing for me personally, I talked about the plastic belt earlier. There's a lot of plastics companies up and down the Ohio Valley, and everybody's against plastics. Plastics are the big evil, but they're really not. They're an essential part of everything that we do. And if to go a life without plastics would actually be more detrimental to the environment. What needs to change is our responsible use of them. And so that's where companies such as PureCycle, and there are others too, we're trying to close that loop and close that circle and make that truly a circular economy for items such as plastics. And so, having that be here if we are our first plant worldwide, I think is exciting, and should be exciting for the region to say, hey, we're a part of this global issue. We're going to create a solution. And so I'm excited to be a part of that, and glad it's in my home state. So
that's great. Thank you, Jason. David?
Yeah, I mean, again, I'll echo everything that was said. And between conversations with the Ohio Game Developers Association and Ohio Southeast and Jobs Ohio, I mean, I can definitely say that gaming and plastics are going to be two big economic drivers for our area. And whether it's a plastics cluster or gaming cluster, or maybe a more creative name for those two things, that's going to be it. I think that we can really build on those. To Jason's point, I believe our plastics program has a class that focuses on ethics in kind of using plastic, and to know that we might be able to turn that into, to close the loop, as he said, I think is going to be big for, not just our area, but for the country and the world. So, I see these two areas as being big drivers for us, big drivers for the Innovation Hub. And I'll just say that, Portsmouth is a place of recovery. It's a place of growth, and it's really a place of natural beauty. I mean, to be able to wake up, walk outside my house and see the hills of Kentucky in the fall, Chris, that's something you can't really put a price tag on. So I think that's what I'll end with.
Well, great. Well, thank you, David. And this is a great wrap-up point, right, as we're about at 1 p.m. But want to thank David and Jason and Paul and for being on here, sharing the work of your companies and the university at Shawnee State. And thanks so much, David, for helping put this together. And really appreciate everyone attending. This has been great. I think I've learned a bunch of information, and hope others from not just the Southern Ohio area, but across the state have learned about some things that they can check out, whether it's the gaming or the plastics or some of the innovation happening through the university. Want to also thank the tour's sponsor, HMB. Again, you can go to hmbnet.com to learn more about them, but HMB has really made this possible. And so, as I mentioned at the beginning, this is 10 weeks. And so this was our 8th one, which was fantastic, and learned a ton. And again, goes to the diversity of Ohio's cities and our regions, and just all the different incredible things that are happening from Northwest Ohio to Northeast Ohio down to Southern Ohio. There's so much going on. And so thank you, HMB, for making this possible. But again, finally, David, Jason, and Paul, thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing your expertise and what you're working on. And we certainly hope others will tune in for the rest of the tour. You can go to OhioX.org to learn more. It's OhioX.org. And we look forward to seeing everyone next week at same time, same place, noon. But we'll be in Ashland. So very much looking forward to that conversation, which again, it's another city that has strong university collaboration. And so we're kind of seeing a theme with that and just what the opportunities that brings. But thank you everyone for tuning in today. Thank you to our 3 panelists, and I hope everyone has a fantastic Wednesday. Have a great day. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Chris.
Thank you.